gonna just charge right in here, and I want to introduce you to our moderator. Majority of you all know her already, but I'm going to share some more information about Shaniqua just in case you don't know. Ms. Shaniqua Badger, the team lead of the Badger Real Estate Group, top 25% among all large teams within the Corcoran Global Living nationwide network of teams and agents. Her team is in Oakland. In 2022, she expanded into commercial and business lending when she opened On Target Solutions. She is a champion for Black wealth. When she is not helping sellers and buyers in the Bay Area create their own economy through real estate, she is a national speaker and serial entrepreneur. Shaniqua and her team focus on educating the masses, increasing sustainable wealth in the Black community, and helping her clients build a legacy plan through real estate investing. In addition, Shaniqua serves in her positions as president of the Commercial Industrial Division of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is referred to as NAREB, and director for Associated Real Property Brokers, ARPB, which is our local chapter of NAREB. She is featured in publications such as Yahoo Finance, Inman News, Fox, and CBS. Also featured as top 50 real estate agents on social media in San Jose and Oakland for the years 2019, 2020, 21, and 22. So if you need Shaniqua's help selling, buying real estate, visit her website on Instagram. So with that, everybody give a warm welcome and applause to Ms. Shaniqua Badger. We turn the floor over to you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Again, thank you for the warm welcome. I appreciate being here this evening. I think that we are all happy to still be here, Zoom or otherwise. And so this is an exciting time for all of us because we get to have a really great conversation. And before I yield the floor to our mayoral candidate that we are going to be having an intimate conversation with this evening, I also want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Madam President has asked me to do the honors in her absence of explaining who we are as an organization. Really briefly, just so that everybody knows the platform in which we use and the legacy in which this fine organization has. So if I may steal the host privileges so I can share the presentation, if I may.
Are you able to share from where you are?
Here, let me see. Let me make sure. Let me make sure.
Okay.
Is that it? Nope, that's not it.
Okay, I'm checking all panelists now. So let's see if that does it. Does that help?
Okay, hold on. Let me see. You would have thought that after all of these years of us being on Zoom, that this would be an easy thing, right? Okay, can you see that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So let me just let you all know, this is my first time using marketing slides by PDF. So this is how we're going to present it tonight. So we are the Associated Real Property Brokers, also known as ARPB. We are the local chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, founded in 1947 as the oldest minority trade organization dedicated to democracy and housing. We are celebrating our 75th year this year. We're going to be in Tampa celebrating that milestone year. Again, we were not allowed to join the National Association of Realtors, also known as NAR. So we convened in 1947 in Tampa. 13 brokers got together and created the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. We were not at that time allowed to be realtors, so we called ourselves as a designation realtist. Today, you see many of us practitioners duly designated as realtors and realtists because we were able to eventually influence the opportunity to become members of both organizations. Every year, we, from a national level, release a State of Housing in Black America, which is a report about the state of Black America as it relates to home ownership. I strongly encourage you to go ahead and scan this QR code, download the report, and read it for yourself. It's some very interesting and telling information, and it really does give you an understanding of why we still do what we do 75 years later. We have some policy points that our Political Action Committee has put together, one of them being creation of the National Restorative Justice Down Payment Assistance Fund, which is basically a down payment assistance program aimed at increasing Black homeownership. These are the things that we are advocating for on a national level. And then reform and standardize the payment calculations for student loans and mortgage underwriting for FHA, VA, and the GSEs, which we all know is Fannie and Freddie. And I think many of us who have student loans, there's a lot of conversation about student loan debt cancellation. This is one of the reasons why. Many people don't realize the impact it may or may not have while you go through the lending process. And so having policy around how it's looked at and standardized in the payment calculations is a huge, huge initiative. And also the elimination of loan level price adjustments and risk-based pricing. Basically the penalization that you get for having low credit scores. Again, every year there's the State of Housing in Black America, which is a SHEPA report. Again, we recommend you all go to www.narab.com to download the report and also get some information about our work around the state of housing in Black America. And finally, let's stay connected. Here are all of our social media tags. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We invite you to join us for our monthly marketing meeting on July 20th. We're going to dive deep into business credit. How many of y'all can use some credit for your business? Not for credit for being in business, but credit for your business. And then also on July 22nd, we're going to be going to a wonderful venue in this wonderful city of Oakland for our 58th annual scholarship gala on July 22nd. And then in Tampa on August 2nd to the 6th, we'll be going back to where it all started for our 75th National Conference. So with that being said, I think I've done all of my housekeeping in accordance to Madam President. I'm going to stop my share and we're going to go back to this. So I'm going to give you all a little bit of housekeeping, if I may. We're going to hop right into it. We want you all to have conversations, and we had a great time seeing and listening to you all in the chat. Again, I have asked that the chat stay open so that you have a voice in all of this, but we're going to ask that you try and save some of your questions. I think we have some questions that we've already received, but we'd like to have some of your questions saved for the end, and we'll open it up for question and answer at the end of our conversation. So with that being said, let's get this party started. So are you ready? Mr. De La Fuente, are you ready?
Always ready.
Okay. So let's hop right into this. And I'm going to start with question number 1, because I believe that you have all the questions ahead of time. What experience and skill set do you have that gives you the confidence that you can affect change in the city of Oakland?
Well, first, I really like to thank you for the opportunity, obviously, to speak to you and your board and all the people that you represent, because I'm very sure there's a lot of people probably watching. But so thank you for allowing me the time. I tell people normally that I was not born in Oakland. I came to Oakland by choice 50 plus some years ago, and I made Oakland my home and live here with my family. And for whatever reasons, I end up getting involved in politics. My background is a labor person. I represent workers for most of my life. And because of that reason, I was concerned about the city of Oakland losing not only our tax base, but our manufacturing base, our jobs in Oakland. And back in the 70s, 80s, Oakland was a very, very vibrant, blue collar town. They generated not only good paying jobs for Oakland residents, but a diversity of jobs that the people had the opportunity to fulfill and help them raise their families. Experience, when I got into politics, run for city council, and I had the privilege to serve in the city council for 21 years. 11 of those years, I was president of the Oakland City Council. So when we're talking about experience and background, I can tell you that not only living in Oakland for 50 years and give me really the overall vision of Oakland and live almost in every neighborhood. But I think that we are at a critical time, and I believe that obviously experience matters. So if people have one of those candidates that they actually have a track record, that people can go back to it, and you can see what my positions were 20 years ago or 25 years ago and what my positions are now. I'm a very constant and very steady person when it comes to staying on what I believe should be a political representation, which has got to be fair to all of us. So I believe when it comes to experience, I probably have a little bit more than the average candidate that is running.
So I heard you say that experience matters, and I love that you said that. Is there any one piece of legislation or a movement that in your 50 years as a resident, your 21 years that you sat on city council that you were really proud of?
Equal access is one of the ordinances that I work on with a couple of other council members was equal access to Oakland residents. One of my beliefs is the government has the responsibility to represent every citizen. I believe that we have the responsibility on their own language and whatever we need to do to make sure that they get involved and they have the same representation and the same access and the same opportunities that everyone else. So one of the legislations that I'm proud of is the Equal Access Ordinance.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in 2 feet first, because I want to ask a question that has a lot to do with, as we speak with equal access. This is a great way to segue into specifically around home ownership. In deference to improving minority home ownership, the average sewer lateral cost is between $7,000 to $10,000. And the average sidewalk improvement is between $3,000 to $5,000. Having to pay for those additional costs knocks many of our buyers out of the market. What solutions or ideas do you have to assist our minority and first-time home buyers?
A great question. And again, I encourage all of you members and all of us people watching us that they go back and check my track record when it comes to not only affordable rental housing, but affordable home ownership. When I got elected to the city council in 1992, after a few months in office, I became aware that the city of Oakland was more spending probably 95% of our housing resources at that time in rental housing. I believe that home ownership is a key for a city to be vibrant, for a city to be safe, for a city for citizens to care about the neighborhoods that they live in, and that opportunity sometimes is very difficult. It's getting more difficult every single day. I'm very proud of the fact that within the first couple of years of being in office, I actually managed to do a 52-unit project, home ownership project on Jingletown, 29th and East 11th. It was one of the first actually home ownership, affordable home ownership projects in Oakland, because Oakland was more interested in just rental housing. So I believe there is resources that we can use, and you're talking specifically about lateral, the expenses of not only the connecting to the laterals and all those issues that cost thousands of dollars. I believe that we can access some of the state funding, some of the federal funding that comes to deal with not only with even homelessness, to use some of those funds in order to subsidize. Go back. We used to have actually in Oakland a program that helped homeowners with some of these expenses. I believe that we have to go back to that. I believe there is resources that we can access that we are spending and many other different directions to actually help people become homeowners.
Okay, and so we're going to stay in the mode of homeownership if we can. What is your position on the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act as it relates to tenants, homeowners, and real estate industry professionals?
When I said experience matters, it matters. I believe that as a policy maker, you need to understand, the repercussions of the policies and actions that we take, as policymakers. I believe that it's our responsibility to make sure that the people that want to be homeowners, the people that actually really want to own their homes and stay within our city, so we can continue having a city that actually it's a vibrant rainbow of people that live in the city, is the only way that I believe we can bring Oakland back to what it used to be, and Oakland back to a situation where people can enjoy the city and people can actually walk the streets and people can actually spend the resources in our city. I don't know if that answered your question. If not, try me again.
Well, I can expand on it just a little bit. As we see, mom and pop owners are affected the most by a policy such as TOPA. And anything that has anything to do with tenant protection, where the unintended impact ends up being mom and pop owners. And many times we see the advocacy groups around tenants go for the big guys, but they step on the backs of the mom and pop owners to do so. In doing that, many times you see policy. And I love the way that you called yourself a policymaker, because policy many times has the unintended impact of mom and pop owners. So how do we create a balance where mom and pop owners do not take the hit for creating better conditions for low to moderate income working families that are in the rental space?
My opinion is the TOPA is kind of a false promise, really, of home ownership. The way I see it, right? I believe that. Unfortunately, I think that with all due respect to the majority of the city council, their policies and their to me the unfairness to not only to the homeowners and the realtors, but to rental housing ownership is unbalanced and is unfair. Like I say, if you can go back, and hopefully people will to go back to my track record and that situation, I always believe in fairness. I believe that rental housing, I believe the investment of rental housing, that investment in homes, it's got to be like any other investment. People have a right to have a reasonable return on that investment, especially when you have the majority of it. One of these things that I used to say and continue saying, as you stated, that the majority of landlords in Oakland are small landlords, mom and pops, 2, 3, 4 units, people that took the retirement monies and invested in duplexes or triplexes, to try to for the future. And now we're really kind of destroying the future, because I believe that the policies of this council are not only unfair, but in my opinion, to a certain extent, even illegally, you want to push the envelope, because the mandates or the requirements that they put on and some of the landlords and the people that own property are not only unfair to the point where, if especially even pre-pandemic, when you have a challenge, the people not paying rent, or people, or the owners have to pay the mortgage, but they're not able to get not only return on their investment, but even the regular rent, even pre-COVID, from my understanding, right? So I think that is TOPA is not only unfair, but I think it gives people kind of a full impression that it works. It's very expensive. I mean, when you get, especially when talking about nonprofits owning housing, and so at the end of the day, the homeowner really ownership is really not real in a sense. So I believe that their effort to somehow create the perception that the landlords or people that own property are the boogie persons or bad people in a sense, really. I mean, attacking, people that invest their money in real housing. To me, if it's not a fair return on investment of people that invest in rental housing, it makes it more difficult, to provide not only affordable, but rental housing and homeownership for people. So I think that is, when you look at TOPA, I think that is something that I'm absolutely believe that is not doing what they claim that they will do. But
and if I could ask another question as it relates to TOPA, do you think that building more affordable housing would be would help in removing some of the pressure off of mom and pop owners around the legislation or the policy of TOPA?
Honestly, no. I think that with this, when you look at the city council and the policies and their discussions when it comes to affordable housing and rental housing, I don't think so. I think that it, for some reason, the majority of this council doesn't see that their actions that they take sometimes, especially when it comes to, again, to rental house or investment in rental housing, kind of push people away from that. So for me, is the scarcity of investment, or the more, if there's no investment in rental housing, then it becomes probably even more expensive, right, for people, because you have to obviously maintain, you have to properties and all of those things. So I don't think so. I think we have to set policies that make it easier for people to invest in rental housing and get a reasonable return on their investment, in order for them to promote, investment in rental housing, not only rental, but affordable and market rate housing. Maybe I'm talking too much about this, but I believe that when I was there, we kind of use market rate housing to build affordable. You have to increase your tax base. You have to generate revenues in order to build of affordable housing, because actually affordable housing or building affordable housing is as expensive as building market rate housing. So we have to change that. So when I hear how supportive they are of affordable housing and rental housing, there's the same rules. So you have to pay the same cost of market rate housing. It makes it more difficult. So we have to really be serious about building affordable buildings. You gotta waive some of the fees. You gotta do things different and access some of the federal funds and some of the state funds that are coming through the pipeline in order for us to do that.
Now, I don't think Oakland's mortgage assistance program allows for multi-units. I think it's for condos, single family, and townhomes. If we for some reason see that there's not a transference from one mom and pop owner to the next mom and pop owner, Do you think it would make sense to include that in the guidelines so people can then start investing in multi-unit properties with the help of the city?
I do agree with that. Yes, I agree with that. I agree with you.
Okay. Well, let's switch gears a little bit if we can. I'd like to get into a conversation that I think we are hearing a lot, that's impacting everyone, from all sides of the community, the city of Oakland, which is the violence in the city of Oakland. Violent crimes are up 8% from 2020 to 2022, with robberies being up 11% and burglaries being up 17% over that same period. How would you combat these rising numbers that impact our community?
And that's only the crimes that I reported, right? Because there's
Yes.
a lot of people that believe that what's the point when it comes to car burglaries, when it comes to break-ins. A lot of people just basically don't even report that. So those numbers are probably higher. To be totally honest and totally candid, that's the reason why actually I've been out for 10 years. I left the city council in 2012. And I've been a private citizen, if you want to use those words, for a decade. And unfortunately, the violence and the neglect of our infrastructure and to the allowing, what's actually happening in Oakland when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to people just, really bluntly just not only steal and attack and people without any consequence. I believe that we are creating an environment where people believe that they can get away with almost anything in Oakland. And like I said, I was not born in the city, but I'm gonna die in the city. And I think that it's time to, from the top of the mayor's office, to make sure that people understand the Oakland is not a dumping ground. The Oakland is not different than any other city, and we should not allow the things that are happening in Oakland that not happen anywhere else. To me, the reason why the sideshows and all of those things are increasing and the car break scene is because no action. It's not even it becomes normal. I have not seen the mayor or this council really being angry about what's happening in our streets or what's happening to our city. What citizens cannot go out to dinner, the citizens are afraid to park their cars, the citizens cannot go to a park, parks that we build and are taken over by the homeless, and streets that are taken over by homeless. I believe that is due to our lack of enforcement of the rules that we have. We have ordinances, we have rules, we have all the tools that we need to actually do a better job. But it's no political support, it's no political backbone to actually really make sure that not only priorities. To me, it's a matter of priorities. If you look at what this city council is doing today, it's going to be a couple of different measures on the ballot to raise money. To raise money for what? To raise money for homeless services, not for police officers, right? We know that we are a 60, I believe is a 667 number of police officers. We need a minimum of 900 just to stay within what other cities of similar size have. And the more than anything, is the political support. Someone have to make sure, and in this case, the mayor, that the police officers not only do their job and do it properly, but they have the political backup, for them to actually perform their jobs. And that's what is lack of. So I believe that it's a question of priorities. Not just to raise taxes just for raising taxes, but priorities. That is, if public safety is really a priority, then that's what the budget should reflect. And instead of just throwing your arms up and it's just money, and it's just another ballot measure, another $200 per homeowner, and at the end of the day, is really, you cannot see the difference. To me, is management. I learned, I'm a labor guy, but I dealt with large corporations, Pepsi Cola, Gallo Winery, you name it. And everything comes down to managing your resources. And I believe in your priorities. And I don't think that that's happening. That's why I'm running for office, because I believe that I'm not running for anything else. And I believe that with experience that I have been there for 21 years, I balance almost every budget for those 20 some years. And at the end of the day, it's a question of priorities. And if we're serious, it's priorities, and you have to make people accountable. Otherwise, I don't think they just throwing money at problems sometimes is the solution. So.
And I love that you brought up your history in the labor. And I am a transplant in Oakland as well, for lack of better words. I'm originally from San Jose, home of Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huertas, where the labor movement was very strong. And I find that one of the things that we can correlate between the violence and the homelessness is equitable pay in the city and access to jobs. How can we connect the dots on that?
You're correct, but Oakland is actually the largest employer of the city of Oakland. We have 40, when I left, it was about 4,700 people. I don't know how many are today, but probably around that number. But I believe that the private sector is really the ones that are more equipped really to generate jobs and to increase our tax base, and but especially jobs. And I'm going to give you an example that I think is it's a company in 73rd and San Leandro Boulevard. It's called American Brass and Iron. It's a manufacturing cast iron pipe company. It's been in Oakland for 115 years, employs about 180 people, right? And people that look like all of us, and good paying jobs. The minimum wage in that company is $30 when you come in, right? So now you have the state district attorney and the Oakland city attorney suing that company for some environmental claims of environmental pollution. And when this company actually fulfill every requirement that is required by law. So they sued them. So as a result of that, the company announced that they're leaving on December 15. That's 180 jobs, not only 180 jobs, but it's the second largest taxpayer to the city of Oakland. I believe that they don't even know that. Some people don't even know that in City Hall. But my point is that Oakland should be a facilitator for attracting jobs. That will be biotech, but that will be manufacturing jobs. And because I believe that that's the only way that we're going to have sustainable economy. When you have a city, public sector that is generating all those jobs, that's when cities get in trouble and all of that, the solution is raising taxes. To me, that's what happened. The results of that is companies leaving or industry moving to other cities. I give you cannabis as one example. I'm not sure that everybody agrees with the cannabis industry, but the point is that last year Oakland collected almost $24 million in tax from the cannabis industry. We could have collected $50 million if the city of Oakland would have not come out with the highest tax for that industry. So what happened is that industry started going to Berkeley and some other places. So I agree with you. I think that we can be facilitators of attracting businesses, and let's face it, when you are a city that are the highest tax city in Alameda County, it's a lot more difficult to do that. So, and we are on our way to be even higher, because if you, like I said, if you notice, some of the measures are going to be in the ballot in November, which, by the way, I'm opposing heartily because I don't believe that is the answer to our problems, just to more money with no accountability and no management of those resources. So.
Well, I am being told that I need to land this plane by 7:30. So with that being said, I think that we're going to open it up for Q&A. I'm going to ask Georgia, and I think Joe is on the line. If we have any questions that we have received from the public, I'd love to get those asked at this moment right now.
We do. There's one question that came up, and so Mr. De La Fuente, the question is, given your experience with the Raiders Stadium deal, what are your thoughts on the A's Stadium proposal, and how might you have handled the Raiders negotiations differently?
You know, was not only the Raiders, what is called the Raiders deal, which was back in 1994, 95. Joe's got elected to the city council in 92. And I ended up with the responsibility to be on the JPA in the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. A woman named Mary King was the supervisor of Alameda County. So both of us became saddled with the responsibility of negotiating with the Raiders. One of the misperceptions is it was a Raiders deal. The reality is that it was Raiders and A's and Warriors, because we remodeled those facilities at a tune of almost $200+ million. No question about it, that we could have done a better job negotiating the so-called PSLs, which was one of the biggest challenges that we had with revenues. Having said that, I'm not shy about the fact that we could have done a better job, but the reality is that we managed to retain 3 teams for almost 20 years. When I left the city council in 2012, we still had the Raiders, we still had the Warriors, and we still had the A's. Now we obviously don't have no Raiders, we have no Warriors, and we're on our way to losing our last team. Having said that, if I would have been in charge, what would have been the mayor or the city council, I would have not picked Howard Terminal as the site for the A's, because I believe that we have a very effective port in Oakland. We have the engine of the region is the Port of Oakland. And no matter what anybody says, it's going to be a challenging marriage, a challenging relationship to have the A's and have the port. So I would have not select Howard Terminal. But now we're here. And I'm the mayor. I'm responsible for trying to retain the last team that we have in Oakland. So I will do whatever I can within reason, not using taxpayers' money to pay for the stadium, because I believe that the Fisher company and the owners of the A's are billionaires. They have plenty of resources to build a stadium. So I believe that you learn from your mistakes and you accept your mistakes, but at the same time, the result of not doing anything back in 1994 would have been that we will have an empty stadium back in the day in 1994. So I didn't pick the responsibility, but you kind of get saddled with it when you run for office, and you become responsible for that. So.
Thank you. And then another, switching gears a little bit, you'd referenced before funding as a key to rebuilding the police department. But what about the other issues, such as oversight and relationships with the city that contribute to Oakland both hemorrhaging officers and being unable to attract recruits?
Absolutely. That's one of our biggest challenges. I think that especially the last few years, you're talking about defunding the police, you're talking about all these things, and we have to be honest. And sometimes people prefer not to talk about it. But when you look at the policies of this council, when you see that there is no support for the police department, when you're talking about defunding the police, when you actually did it, when you actually took $25 million out of the police budget, and then you put back 10 million because you got a backlash from citizens, it shows, that you're not, that obviously that you that you don't understand how to not only attract, but how to retain officers. I believe that again, back to question of priorities, we have a budget of $1 billion or more. Question of priorities. If public safety is a priority, hiring more police officers is a priority, you do that. And instead of finding different excuses and reasons why. But most of all, you have to support your police department to do their job. At the same time that you demand accountability. You know, let's face it, all of us see those black and whites going in many different directions sometimes without stopping, right? So we got to make sure that it's a system. And let me tell you, when I was there, I proposed a system that will, like a report card, a system that shows how many contacts an officer had during the day with citizens of Oakland. How many stops? You got to manage your resources, and if you don't, will never be enough, right?
Thank you. So there was a follow-up to the previous question. I apologize for jumping around.
It's okay.
But regarding the A's and the Raiders, the question regarding the A's, the question is, so just to be clear, does that mean that you would not support any financial investment in infrastructure or any other contributions to the A stadium deal or the surrounding areas?
Oakland already has a plan. We have an infrastructure plan citywide, okay? So it is allocation of resources for infrastructure within the port areas. So long as it's within the already planned infrastructure investment, absolutely. But to actually dedicate resources from general fund to us, no, I don't think so. I believe that we have, again, it's a question of priorities, and I believe that if we don't get the city back in a situation that is safe, that people believe that they can come and work and spend the resources, I don't think that we're going to get out of this situation. So priorities, in my opinion. But
thank you for circling back to that one with us. So here's one that it sounds like it just came up. So as mayor and leader of the city, how would you have handled the recent change to the allowable rent increase by the city council?
Yeah. First, I believe again, I said a little while ago that I believe that rental housing or landlords should have the same opportunity to get a return on that investment as any other type of investment. For some reason, we treat them different, but I believe that they have the return on that investment should be just like any other type of investment. How do I handle it? I think there is I learned in my 21 years in City Hall that sometimes when you expose your plans or you kind of outline your plans, people come out against them no matter what, even if they don't give her a chance to see if it works or not. So I learned that sometimes it's better to keep it close to your chest, but I can tell you that I believe it's unfair. I believe that the rent arbitration board, which the premise was that it was going to be a balanced board, there was going to be equal number of landlords and tenants and neutrals, in my opinion, is just one-sided. And it's with all due respect, is no champion for rental housing or for landlords in Oakland. It's a one-way street, and I think that is at the end of the day, it has never worked and it will not work. So I will definitely oppose anything that is or try to change what I believe is unfair. And again, my track record speaks for itself. I think that I encourage you to go back and look at the way I voted when it came to issues that impact you and your organization, and I'm very proud of that actually. When if you check that, so.
Well, here's another housing policy issue. So with so many new measures being presented, that it seems like well, let me restart that. So many new measures are being presented that seem like they are impacting the already existing housing crisis and making it worse, and putting more burden and restrictions on mom and pop investors, like we were discussing earlier. What is your position on the new measure that proposes implementing just cause evictions on new construction and ADUs in Oakland?
I'm opposed to it. I can tell you that. I believe, again, in my opinion, one of the challenges for Oakland is that we want to be different than many other cities. We don't learn from what it works in some of the cities or what other cities are doing, and we're not being fair. And to me, I think that that's what it causes, not only the exodus of investment, but to me, that's what it causes the repercussions that we see, that tenants and landlords somehow I pit against each other. I think that, to me, when you are an elected official, you have the responsibility to represent everybody equally. You cannot just be a champion for landlords or a champion for, in this case, tenants. You have the responsibility to be fair, to be balanced. So I can tell you that I will use whatever powers as a mayor to change the things that I can change immediately, or advocate for either against or change or propose changes on some of the regulations that they have established that, in my opinion, are unfair and are actually really making it almost impossible for especially small landlords and small in the city of Oakland, which is the majority of the owners. So.
Thank you. Here we go. Another one just came in. I believe I heard, here's a question. I believe I heard that the roads and development of most of the surrounding area of Howard Terminal would be paid for by government grants. Is that correct? And do you see benefits to the city of having a major destination?
As I stated before, if I would have been in charge, let's put it that way, I would have not selected Howard Terminal. I think it's many, many challenges. When I was in the city council, Robert Ball was our city manager back in the day, 2010, 2008, 2009. We did a study. He commissioned a $500,000 study on 7 different sites of Oakland for the Oakland A's. From Laney College to downtown to the Coliseum, to the parking lot, east parking lot of the Coliseum, Oak Street, where Peerless Coffee is, in all of those areas there, that's another area. So 7 sites. The most difficult, most expensive, more unpredictable site was Howard Terminal. Why? Because it's right close to the water. Water-based changes and global warming is changing. You have the train. So it's many reasons why it's a very challenging site. At the same time also, we have one of the most successful container ports. We already have the fact that the shipping and people that ship woods to China or to Mexico or to some of the places already have delayed times because of the amount, the volume of those shipments. So this definitely is going to make it even a little bit more difficult. So we cannot just really drink the Kool-Aid and think that gondolas or things like that will allow you to move 30 or 40,000 people, across the railroad tracks. So there's many challenges, and it is some federal and some infrastructure monies that are from the state and from the feds, but never enough for what the cost will be. So I think that now that there is the site that is being selected, we just have to make sure that the port can continue to function, obviously, in a way that will continue to stay being the 4th largest container port in the country. At the same time that we figure out a way to move those thousands of people across those railroad tracks. So it's not as simple. A lot of people think it is. And we have to at least recognize some of the challenges for the port. And if we do that, then hopefully we are able to figure out how to move those thousands of people at the same time that we continue having a successful port.
Thank you. So there's a few more questions. I know we're getting close to the 7:30 mark, so we want to be close. So
My time is your time. Huh?
okay, what I'll do is I'll ask, and Georgia, if you want to let us know if we can end, we can always send these questions out and get them answered and send them back. But this next one is coming from Murray Powers, who's asked a few so far. Do you think that the macro program proposal would be pragmatic and workable? Would it really be effective and helpful to both the police and public?
I think it could be effective. I think that could be. I think that back to my kind of one of my original comments, I think that it's essential for us, for the mayor, for the city council to support and to work with our police department, right? To show that we're serious about not only dealing with crime, but about being fair and being allowed people to do their job. I think that we are in for trouble. I think that there's going to be changes in the sheriff's office. There's going to be changes in the DA's office and Alameda counties. All of those things, I believe, are going to impact us. So yes, it's good work if we are honest about some of the pieces that have to come together in order to do that. But
yeah. Georgia, what do you we got 2 more questions in the chat. Do you think we still have some time to get these in?
I have my phone died, so I can't see the clock in turn. Are we at 7:30?
We got a couple more minutes.
Well, if we can, we have one question that came in before this. If I could, it's a 3-part question, but
Yes,
I'm gonna ask one of the 3 parts, just so that we honor that person that asked the question and took the time to write these out. His question is, would you support a zero tolerance policy for homeless encampments and derelict vehicles being used as housing? Would you support establishment of a UN-style refugee camp with secure tents, appropriate medical, social, and support services? Would you support a one-time offer of such housing, and if persons living in the streets refuses, they would be diverted to the criminal justice system? That was more like a 3-part question. So he had 5 questions, actually. Lots to unpack there.
Can we get a time check here? What time is it?
It's 7:28. So we'll land the plane. Everyone, we will land the plane at 7:35.
If everybody is okay with, and Ignacio, if you have a few more minutes.
Absolutely. No, I'm absolutely. I like to answer the questions. Absolutely.
So I'm thinking that perhaps those who want to stay on and listen, we let it go for a few more minutes, maybe because these are important issues, and I know Ignacio would love to answer them. So if others want to stay on, you're welcome to. We're not going to go way over. So does that fall in line okay with you, Ms. Shaniqua?
Yes.
Okay, so anyone that wants to stay on, and we're going to try to wrap this up because things get lost if you wait and get questions later and get answered. So we'd like to wrap this up tonight. So I'm sorry.
We'll yield the floor back to you. Yield the floor back to you, Mr. Fuente.
So let me see if I remember the question, and I can. If you read my statement, that I put out when I made the decision to run for office, is that I will not tolerate homeless encampments. They are destroying our neighborhoods and our commercial areas, period. especially when there's drugs and many other things happening in some of those homeless encampments. I will not tolerate that. But I believe, obviously, that we have to, that the city has a responsibility to deal with this kind of a incredible challenge. And let's face it, it's growing every single day. Unfortunately, because of the policies of our elected officials, with all due respect, we have allowed our homeless population to kind of take over some of our public right-of-ways, some of our parks, some of our streets, some of our cities, and areas of the city, and causing incredible challenges for our businesses, for our residents, for our mothers that walk their children to school. So I can tell you that I'm going to be very aggressive on that. At the same time, we have some plans to actually do some of what the person that has a question is talking about. But let's face it, I mean, this is costing hundreds of millions of dollars. The homeless investment of the city supposedly last year was $27 million. The county was $100 million. And with all due respect, I don't see the difference. And I don't see any changes. So we have to aggressively enforce the rules that we have when it comes to protecting our businesses and our right-of-ways and all of those issues. We have to identify a couple of sites. The city already building intervention centers is one on Hagenberger Road and by the freeway. It's a couple of more that they are building. To me, it cannot be in neighborhoods or cannot be on commercial corridors, have to be in areas that don't impact our not only the businesses but the citizens, because if we lose those businesses, we lose our tax base, and we're going to be in a worse situation. So I will not tolerate that, but I will work with the homeless coalition in order to make sure that the city can, with the state, and let's face it, the responsibility of homelessness is the state and the federal government and the county. The county of Alameda is the one that has the $300 million or more to deal with the issues of homelessness. And I can tell you that if you ask the supervisors of Alameda County, they will tell you that they have the resources, but it hasn't been real leadership to actually address the issue or wanted to address the issue. So the answer is, I will not tolerate some of them, but I will work, to make sure that we deal with the people that really needs our help when they are on the streets of Oakland at this time. So I don't know.
Thank you for answering that. That was a very lengthy question, I know, but thank you for answering that. Joe, do we have any more questions?
We do. We've got a couple more. So this one is from Jonisha Smith. Current middle-class families that own homes and investments often have serious issues around renovations and home improvements that require permitting. And due to the owner's process, hefty expenses, abusive practices within that entity. As a result, homeowners are left in a bind and often end up doing unpermitted work or neglecting their homes. What is your experience with planning and permitting in the city of Oakland? And what do you propose to help ease the process for Oakland residents?
Great question, and close to my heart, because I think that that's one of the biggest complaints that you hear from businesses and small businesses and homeowners. In my opinion, the message has got to come from the top. The message has got to come from the top that every city department, we have to be facilitators. We should not be obstructionists. We should not, I have the stories that people come into the counters and coming with a full set of proposals, and they are told yes, and then they come back and there's another 2 or 3 things additional, and then another 2 or 3 things additional. It never stops, and you hear the stories all the time. But in my opinion, again, it comes from the top. Someone has got to set the tone that the city, that we open for business in a way to help businesses, not in a way to make it more difficult. Secondly, you're absolutely correct. The expense, we're talking about lateral trends, we're talking about all the things that we're talking about, is that we are a very, very expensive city to do business with. And unfortunately, it sounds good at the beginning, but at the end, long term, it's not sustainable. Businesses go somewhere else. And I think that homeowners, people are moving out of Oakland, right? Because of a lot of different challenges. So I can tell you that as mayor, from the top, publicly, the message is going to be that I'm going to hire people from the city manager down to the people that are on those departments, that again, the mission is facilitate and help businesses not being an obstruction and not make it so difficult for business. In my opinion, it comes from the top. I remember when Jerry Brown was the mayor, I never forget, quick story. I was in his office and somebody called, pick up the phone, and he said, the other end, I cannot hear the other end, but basically was that he was waiting for 3 months for the permit. Jerry Brown picked up the phone, called the planning department, right, and moved the item. To me, again, it's a question of attitude and what is really the message that we want to send.
That's a perfect segue to our final question that we have here. And that is with about 4,000, this one's from Derek Barnes. So with about 4,000 employees working for the city of Oakland, how will you deal with over 700 job openings, almost a 20% vacancy? And the comment made is, morale, pay, and as you're saying, leadership seem to be an issue for the city.
When I was there for 21 years, I had a very good relationship with not only with the managers, but with a lot of the unions that represent the employees. And I can tell you that the last time that I ran for mayor, with Congressman Ron Dellums got elected, and the SEIU and the unions that represent the city employees actually endorsed Congressman Dellums, and not me, right? And I'm a labor person. Why? Because I demand the fact that the city of Oakland pays some of the highest salaries in the state. The city of Oakland provides some of the best benefits in the state. So the least that people can do, obviously, is earn it, right? Just do our jobs. So I think that we just have to, at the same time that you have to work with employees and make sure that they are well paid and well represented, you actually have to demand, accountability and performance. And I can tell you that as mayor, every month is going to be a report card of how bad or how good we are doing. And I'm going to take credit for the things that are working good, and I'm going to take credit for the things that are working bad, and I'm going to try to improve that. And I believe that that's what it's all about: leadership, accountability, and your willingness to put yourself on the line to make sure that the things get done. So.
Well, I want to, go ahead, Joe, do we have anything else?
No, back to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I want to thank you for your time today, not only just for sitting with us and answering all of these questions, but also for the people who have spent some time with us this evening listening to the answers of those questions. So we really do appreciate everyone's participation this evening. Mr. De La Fuentes, do you have any closing comments?
Yes. First, again, thank you very much. To be honest, if you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have probably said, no, I'm not crazy, right? But the reality is that I'm a little crazy. And the reality is that I believe that the city, at least for me, deserved my last few years of energy. I came to the city in 1971 with absolutely nothing in my pocket. And I think the city and their citizens helped me and allowed me to be what I am today. So I just want to, the last few years that I have of energy to use them to do the best job I can to get the city back on track. I'm not running for anything else. I'm not running for assembly. This is my last hurrah. And I can tell you that I'm ready for the job. And I know that I'm gonna upset a lot of people. That what makes me different is not only the experience that I have, but I can tell you that talk is cheap. But at the end of the day, whoever is the next mayor, he or she, is gonna have to make some of the toughest decisions that we have ever made in order to get the city back in